Hello, and welcome to the Bot Nirvana podcast, where we dive into all things software automation. I'm your host, Nandan Mullakra. While I'm not podcasting, I write articles on nandan.info. I hope you enjoyed the show. Let's get right into it. Our guest today is Kenzo. He's the creator of the open source RPA TagUI. TagUI is a free and open source RPA from AI Singapore. It's a command line automation software that uses a simple human language like syntax to build your workflows. In this podcast, we discuss the history of TagUI, where it is now, and where they like to be in future. Let's listen in. Hi Kenzo, thank you and welcome to the Bot Nirvana podcast. Thanks for taking time to be with us today. Let's start with a quick intro about yourself.
Sure, Nathan. Thank you very much for inviting me for this call. Myself, I'm a product engineer at AI Singapore. So AI Singapore is a government-funded organization to do activities around accelerating AI for the Singapore ecosystem. And as part of that, I'm in this unit where there's a scope for RPA, and that's where we created TagUI and try to create a totally open source, a totally free RPA tool for anyone to use. So that's my brief background.
Oh, okay. And you spoke a bit about AI Singapore. Can you tell us a bit about AI Singapore and how it came into being and how long it's been, what's its activities?
Sure. In fact, TagUI started before AI Singapore. I was working at DBS Bank. I think it's the largest bank in Singapore. And after working in that bank for a couple of years, I found that I was doing a lot of automation stuff in the bank. I found that maybe all these things is more interesting to be done on production system. That's where I left the bank and spent a year to 2 years on a sabbatical in mostly Eastern Europe, Chiang Mai, Thailand. And that's when I created TagUI. And then fast forward, sometime, that was late 2017, I ran out of money. So I had to come back to Singapore with my wife and start working. And that's where I got to know, I was trying to, by then, TagUI has already launched beta, initial release, and so on. And I think it was about 2,500 stars on GitHub at the time. That was sometime in Q3 2017. And my plan was to, since I have enough, fun on being on a sabbatical, working on a project I really enjoy. It's an unpaid open source project, but that's fine. But I need to go back to work to be a responsible husband, to be, in career. So I plan to find the right organization to give the project to the organization to continue maintaining it, developing it, or whatever. And that's where in my search, I found that, in Singapore, there's actually an organization called AI Singapore, and they are doing things with AI and automation and stuff. Then I thought, maybe I can contact this organization and say, maybe I have this project and maybe you guys want to take over it and so on. Yeah, so that's how I reach out to AI Singapore on the web page contact form. And, fast forward a couple of days from that submission on the web form, I met up with Mr. Lawrence Liu, the director, one of the directors at AI Singapore. We met for coffee at Starbucks in the campus. And then it turns out that he's actually starting to hire an engineering team. And he's very happy to bring me on board to be one of the first engineers in AI Singapore. And as part of my work, to continue developing TagUI. So that was when my full-time unpaid hobby became a full-time job. From that was I think starting in 2018, we started to do that. Yeah. So that was how TagUI from a personal project, it became a project backed by the indirectly by the Singapore government through AI Singapore. And as for AI Singapore, I think the initial planning was done quite early, 2015, 2016. As with all public services and government projects, there's a lot of planning, budgeting, and approval. But the actual execution, it started taking off in 2018 for AI Singapore. And it's funded by an organization called National Research Foundation. under the Singapore's Prime Minister office. And at that time, the Prime Minister office, they are fully aware that AI is going to be very important. And for Singapore, as you know, we are a super small country. To remain competitive and relevant to the world, we need to do our best and really up our game. Right? So the leaders in the country is aware of that. And in 2015, 16, Lawrence and a few others of the leadership made a proposal, and then the project was born and the approval was given. They committed quite a big sum of money to be spread over multiple years, given multiple milestones, and then the goal is to accelerate AI adoption in Singapore and make having AI talents in Singapore to boost the economy, of course. And as for AI Singapore, there's generally three branches. One will be doing deep AI research, where the organization will allocate research grants to the right professors, to the right researchers to do deep AI research. Those you're thinking about 3 to 5 years, that type of time frame. Then there's another branch that's involved in doing specifically AI to tackle challenges that Singapore faces. So in Singapore, we have the elderly have a lot of problem with diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So this is one of the area that hopefully with AI and research in this space, we can predict and forecast who are the people that are likely to have such situations in the future before even the doctors can know it, before even the patients themselves know it. So if we can do that, then people can take preemptive measure to prevent that type of scenario from happening. Right? Once you get started on medication, sometimes it's very hard to wean off the medication for life. Right? So that's another branch. And the third branch is the industry innovation branch, where Lawrence is the head of that branch. And in that branch, we involve more with the industry. We involve more with different institutions, with different companies, SMEs, MNCs. And not only do we do training for AI talents, we also do things like working with companies to scope out projects to help them scale their AI efforts. I'll give an example. For example, if you are SME or MNC, you decided to start an AI project, then we can match with you guys $1 for $1 to scale up your efforts. And you can really do AI in the least risky way, because we are the experts. We know how to guide you to do it in a less risky way. And at the same time, for each dollar you bring to this project, we'll match it with the funding from government. And that will really be a boost to your AI efforts and machine learning digital transformation efforts. So that's one angle to look at it. And along with that, a very popular program that we have is called AI apprenticeship. Because if we have such an AI project, can you imagine where are the people to do it? So in order to solve the problem of having such projects becoming successful, we need to somehow find a way to bring the talents on board. And there isn't that much AI talents and experts in Singapore. So the team came up with an idea. Hey, how about we launch an apprenticeship where for this project, we get maybe graduates or people who have worked for a few years come on board, and we match them with certain companies, and we train them, and we give them a monthly stipends, quite a comfortable stipends actually, also funded by the government. And then in the process, in the 9-month process, they learn about AI, they learn about machine learning, they apply hands-on to a real industry project, and then they graduate and become possibly somebody to be hired by that target company or join one of the tech giants in the ML space or data science space. So that was a thing that's actually the industry innovation branch is focusing on a lot now. And now I think we are opening up for the 9th batch already. And each batch has around 20 engineers, 15 to 20 engineers. So the goal is to train up hundreds of such AI-enabled and machine learning engineers. And the organization will believe that this would be a good foundation for machine learning and AI technologies to be adopted and to be made aware by the general public in Singapore.
So I think there are two inspirational stories there, right? One is AI Singapore itself, as you mentioned later, and how it's doing great things in terms of developing AI talent, helping industries develop AI, as well as just doing things for the general good of the public in Singapore, which I think is very necessary because AI is a powerful thing, and if we need to channel AI to some of the public good things, maybe some of those things would be missed by the corporate world where it's being used extensively. So I think AI Singapore is doing a great job, and I think if people in Singapore listening to this, it's a great opportunity out there for you, as well as people listening from other countries. Go look up your program in your local country, right? Like yesterday, I replied to a tweet about India releasing an AI program, and some people were like, "India still lacks basic education, and why are they focusing on AI?" But I was telling them it's both important. We should have people who are at that level get basic education, and people who are ready for AI not be left out about of the AI revolution and how it can help people, right? So I think AI Singapore doing there a great job, and it's great that you found AI Singapore. I didn't know that you found AI Singapore, but that's also an inspirational story. Your story of you being a passionate observer of the space, just going and doing something passionate, and great things come out of sabbaticals, right? When you're thinking, when you're free to think for
Yes.
yourself, and that's great. So I think I'd like to take that route of, since it's an automation podcast, of your inspirational story of coming up with the TagUI, the RPA itself. How did that come about to be? I know you were working at a bank, so did you notice some automation there and you thought that's interesting? How did you come up with TagUI?
Sure. So when we worked at the bank, I was a test automation engineer, and prior to that, I was actually in various functional roles, like in operations support, in technical consulting, and so on. And um, before I joined the bank, I progressed in my career to be a global team lead of a HP enterprise CMDB team doing operational support. But at the time, I know that the world is shifting to a phase where value creation is focusing more on the engineering side. So I decided to do a career pivot and join DBS Bank. And that's where for the first time in my career, I start to write a lot of code. Yeah. And, but I did programming way back, like when I was 12 and so on, where I got my hands on the first computer. But in DBS was first time professionally I write code. And at that time, we have rows of laptops where we run test automation, QA, like quality assurance. So when we release a new project, a new software release, we'll do a lots of test cases, hundreds and thousands of test cases on those applications. For my case, is testing the trading application and investment applications. So as I work along in that full-time job, at night or over the weekend, I'll explore a bit about the space on the broader space of automation, because in that job, I use commercial tools like, it used to be called other names, but now it's called HP, UFT, HP, LeanFT. So outside of these commercial tools, on my own, I found out more about the open source space. What are the other tools available? Then I start to play with tools like Phantom.js and Casper.js. At that time, they were very popular, these two tools. Yeah. And as I play along, I realized there's a commonality between those open source tools and the commercial tools, yeah, in automating stuff. So basically, to automate something very simple, like let's say you type something into your username, text field, or you click an OK button. To do something as simple as that, often in production, we need to write 10, 20 lines of code to do that, because there's so much behind that clicking that you just don't write one line to write it. That's it. You have to do things like you make sure that the button has appeared. You got to set certain timeout to make sure that you have a sufficiently long timeout, but not too long at the expense of making the test automation too long. And you have the things like checking out these exceptional cases and error handling. So when you combine all those things, you end up writing like many lines just to do one step. And for me, I question the status quo. I ask, why can't we distill that many lines, 20 lines of code into one line, where it contains the essence of what you're trying to do. So when I went on the sabbatical, at the time, I was even tinkering about going to machine learning space and virtual reality because those are rising and becoming popular. But it was clear to me that I couldn't contribute as much in those spaces as in RPA because of my test automation background. So I decided to focus on that. And in the earliest stage of my sabbatical, I just spent a week to create a prototype where the prototype will take in a text file of what you want to do, click something, type something on a web page, and you convert that line into 10, 20 lines of JavaScript code to run Phantom JS and Casper JS in the background. We are invisibly transparent to the user, and you automate your web page based on that shortened instructions. So that was how the project got started. Yeah. Then later on, in a couple of months later, when I make the beta release, then I think somebody on my network posted to the Hacker News, and suddenly from 2-3 stars on my GitHub repo, within a week there was 1,500 stars. Then I realized, oh shucks, I hit on something that is is somewhat in demand, Yeah. So
and what year was it?
That was in 2017 in February. So 2 to 3 months after I make the alpha release. Yeah.
Okay.
So let me try to recall. So in June 2016, I left the bank. Then I went on sabbatical, Budapest, Serbia, Novi Sad, Belgrade, and stuff. Then in December, I wrote the alpha version. And in the February 2017, I released the beta version. That's where somebody on my network shared to Hacker News. And until today, I don't know who shared it. I have no idea who shared it. But thanks to that guy or girl, because by sharing it and Hacker News gave me some form of validation that, hey, this is a space where at least there's some interest in this area in automation. And that gave me sort of a momentum and a conviction to carry on doing it that way. And when I did it at the start, since the alpha release, it has been open source because I'm not a company, I'm not a big organization. To me, the fastest way to get user feedback and iterate is to make it open source. That's where you can get feedback very fast. And that's how it has been since the start. Make a release, make new features, and users will try it out, they give some feedback. Then if the feedback is aligned with the vision of what is something that's going to make automation easy to do, then I'll implement it.
So you focused on RPA, and here you have got a complete suite of products with plugins and all that. So can you tell us a bit about the TagUI that's there today?
Sure. And indeed, if I didn't meet Lawrence Liu from AI Singapore, the project would have died by now because there's no way I can continue developing it for so long. But because I did, and with AI Singapore's patronship, TagUI today, it's a bustling community where we have about 3,000 new downloads every month. And when we say 3,000 new downloads, it doesn't mean the same user, because after you download, you don't have to download it again. So out of these 3,000 downloads, maybe we have 2,000 is using the Python version, which I created in 2019 and still maintain in my personal time. Then around 1,000 download is for the main TagUI in human language. So this means that, if you take away attritions and dropouts, we probably have about 1,000 new users every month. So that's a healthy figure for the community. And why are there such a healthy number of people downloading, not just for Windows, not just for Linux, but also for Mac? And I think primarily the reason is it's very easy to use. So it's essentially a language that's designed for RPA, where using very little words, using very little keystrokes, you can tell the computer what to do. For example, let's say I have a web page, and the web page has 5 tables of maybe COVID statistics. Then I want the third table, all the data from the third table. All I need to do in TagUI language is to say table, then I put the number 3, then to result.csv. That's all. Then the engine will take care of downloading the whole table and save it to a spreadsheet or what for you. So that's the ease of use for TagUI language. And other than being a language designed for RPA, because of the support from extended community champions, like over time, for example, I created the Python version in my personal time, and Alan Zimmerman, the guy who created OpenRPA, OpenFlow, he's from Denmark. He created the C# version of TagUI, and he also created the Node-RED version of TagUI, which is a more like a event-driven visual flow app for creating automation. And there's other community champions like extended community champions like Subesh Malik. He created the VS Code extension for TagUI. So any user who's a VS Code user can immediately install that extension and use TagUI with all the syntax highlighting and whatever to edit the robot files for TagUI. And then there's somebody I know from Dubai. It's Suhail Ahmed. Maybe that's the right way to pronounce Suhail Ahmed. Yeah. So Suhail is working on the Go version of TagUI. And when you have different flavors of TagUI, and like Python version, you can run in Jupyter Notebook, and you can run in your interactive command prompt, you can run in your Anaconda. And then on top of that, my colleague Ruth, who just joined earlier this year, she created the plugins for TagUI for Microsoft Word and Excel. So when you have plugins like this, it means that for anyone who's familiar with Microsoft Word and Excel, you can create your RPA robot, you can do your recording, you can do your deployment, you can do your configuration of data and collecting the results back, viewing the report, everything within Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. You don't even need to open your Windows Explorer folder to look at the output files, because the data will be streamed back into the Word document and the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. So I guess in a way, it sometimes I would tend to think that the open source project would somehow personify the creator's beliefs and values. So I believe a lot in diversity. I believe a lot in heterogeneous world where different values, different flavors, different choices and opinions matter. So as I got the chance to carry on working on and the privilege to work on this project, I try to shape it such that it's a very decentralized, very diverse community versus a very centralized model where, hey, I built a super app, and this app has everything. So you guys come download it so I can charge you license fees to use it. For AI Singapore, we are not a for-profit organization. So there's no value in doing that. So all I need to think about is what can I do today in the best use of my time, to create a future, to shape a future where for the users who would like to use RPA, would like to explore RPA with the lowest risk to entry, with the lowest cost total cost of ownership, how can we create something together with other people to make that reality happen? So that's the main concern. So for us, we can create a Microsoft Word plugin and Excel plugin. For any other RPA provider, whether it's open source or commercial, they can't do that. Otherwise, they'll be streaming revenue to Microsoft, right? But for us, it's free. So whether it's any flavor of TagUI, whether it's Word, Excel, everything is free. It's going to be free forever as we start to transition towards a TagUI Foundation, a non-profit model, maybe sometime later this year or early next year.
Okay, and so that's very impressive, right? That you have a diverse set of places where you can come at from to TagUI, right? Whether you are doing C#, whether you are using Python, whether using R, whether you're using Word or Excel, whether you're on Linux, whether you're on Mac, so whether you're on Windows. So I think, yeah, like you said, like your vision, that's translating into reality. With having a diverse ecosystem of people who can participate in TagUI. And I think that's a natural way to progress, right? Like if you look at nature, there is no centralized planning going on, right? There's only one. There's no plan. Everything but comes in together and flows naturally. And so, I think that's the beauty of open source, because people, it grows where there is a demand, and it probably dies out where there is no demand. But basically it creates a healthy ecosystem, and it looks like, TagUI, I think, is progressing in a great way, because with your vision, I see a lot more people participating in the community. Like you said, many people develop all these things, and you also have a Power Automate desktop in the works, I think, right? And more in the roadmap. What's your roadmap look like now?
Sure. Uh, Actually, for the roadmap this year, we already did some brainstorming at the start of the year, and the rest has been just execution and reacting to major news in the market, like Power Automate desktop comes out. That's a big news in March for everybody in this space. Yeah. So and right now I'm more or less done with the various user requests, enhancement requests. So throughout the year, there was like over 50 user enhancement requests. So just earlier this month, I closed all of them already. Everything has been implemented, has been done, and the major features to be introduced are also there already. Like recently, we added the Microsoft Edge support. That's going to be very important as Windows Internet Explorer reaches end of life. And recently, we also launched a Microsoft Word and Excel v3, which is a big step up from the version 1, because now you can do everything in Word and in Excel. You don't even need to go to your command prompt. You don't even need to go to your web browser or anything to get the results. Everything just streams back. Essentially your Word become your RPA studio, and your Excel become your data configuration platform and reporting platform for RPA. So those are the big features that are out already. Right now, I'm working on an Excel integration where, can I create a simple language, in TagUI for people to automate Excel. So we did a couple of weeks of brainstorming. And I think I'm happy with what I'm seeing it so far. For example, like in Excel, you enter a cell, you can enter something equals to A3. That means you want to grab things from the cell A3. You can enter something like A1 colon D5. Then you grab the range. So I'm trying to incorporate that into TagUI language, where there's a new Excel step, and you can use those Excel formulas that everybody knows to move data around in Microsoft Excel. So I think that's something exciting. And the next thing that I'm working on along with that Excel idea is I'm thinking, like Python, there's a Python package ecosystem. I'm thinking, can we do something like that for TagUI, where different users or developers, can they create their own package and upload, so that other users can just, TagUI download 0, and then you have the 0 accounting package right in your hands to automate the 0 web application. So if we can execute that well, I think it's it will be one of the defining moments for the project, where we involve the community a lot more, and we really leverage what each individual can contribute to the rest of the community. Right now, we don't have something like that. It's still based on user give me feedback, then I improve it to a point where other users can use the same feature. But if we have some way of doing that package system, then it's a game changer. And likewise for other projects like OpenRPA or RoboCop, if they can do something like that, that's great for their users, because it's no longer each user living in their own silos, creating their own stuff, but it's more like each additional users of RoboCop or OpenRPA or TagUI actually adds a lot more value to the rest of the people on the network, on the community. Yeah, so that's something I'm very excited to work on. And the next thing that I'll be working on after I get some grabs about this tool will be having an AI recorder. Right now, from the Microsoft Word plugin, you can have a tool where you can create snapshot of where you want to click on, where you want to type on. But I think it's essential that the Word plugin, as well as the TagUI itself, have the ability to record a sequence of such images without a user having to drag the boundary of where you want to capture, So if I can execute this well, it will be based on a mix of classical image processing plus some machine learning. And when the recording is done, what will happen is as the user click through the different elements, whether it's a web page, whether it's a desktop app, the model will try to use classical image processing rules to scope out the range of the boundaries of where to crop the image snapshot for use in automation later. And if there's classical image processing rules doesn't work, then you'll fall back to some machine learning model of it'll be a trained model of user interfaces and buttons and so on. So that will be the plan. And if this can be done well, maybe we can combine together with XPath from the web browser side, and when we integrate everything seamlessly as one recorder. And then have this recorder be made available so that it can output to different flavors of TagUI. So at the start, when you record, you can say, hey, I want to record this sequence of action. But I want to output it for the Python script, or I want to output it as a Go language TagUI script or C# TagUI script, or maybe a Microsoft Word document. So with all these options, a user can decide the medium that they are most comfortable to work with. And that will give you the output for the automation. You do all your fine-tuning, and then that's it. And if that's done well, it means anyone from Microsoft Word can press record, do your thing, and then stop recording, and then make your fine-tuning. And you can do all this in your native languages as well. In let's say Hindi, in your, let's say, in German and French as well, in your Microsoft Word. Yeah, that's got to be very interesting. And if that is also done well, I also would think it's in the best interest of the automation community to make this AI recorder open source and free as well. So other RPA tools provider, whether it's commercial or open source tools provider, if they are interested to use this engine as the recorder, they're very much welcome to use it and do so. So I think that's the best. Of course, if you think of business strategy, this might not be the best, because if you're creating a powerful and useful tool and you end up open sourcing it, then won't you be opening it up to your competitors, right?
Yeah.
So, but to me, if I take a step back, I can see that the people in this RPA space, they are actually either from big tech companies, or they are very well funded venture capital funded companies and startups in open source. So to me, if I create something like this and it ends up getting very popular and useful, if I don't open source it, it means that our competitors will actually invest money to build it, and they will definitely do it better than us because of the sheer strength of their pockets and the resources. So, but if we open source it, then there's an opportunity for some form of a partnership, some form of collaboration where we can work together across. We put aside our competition for the time being. Let's work together to create an AI recorder that's really good, and make RPA easy. And I think you also mentioned before, there's a rise of this process intelligence where there's
Right.
tools, right? I think you wrote a few articles and posts about it, and this is also a new area where through the process intelligence and logging, actually, if you think about it, that is actually a somewhat a peripheral threat to RPA space, right? Because they are doing what UiPath is trying to do. They are doing what the automation anyway is trying to do. So if they can, through automated process logging and AI and ML, generate the robot scripts and run those automation, then you'll be sure they'll take a cut of the pie of UiPath for sure, and maybe Microsoft Power Automate and so on. So if the AI recorder thing is done well and is open source, then that's an opportunity for the different players in the traditional RPA space to come together and maybe improve it further and make a win for this particular industry. Of course, there will always be new equilibriums being formed, and if the market dictates that, the future of RPA, the future of automation is not RPA, but it's process intelligence, then so be it. I mean, these are macro trends that we only know in the hindsight. We can't really predict. Well, all we can is probably make our best bet and make our best execution. But eventually, who is the ultimate winner? It's really hard to guess, because a lot of things don't follow logic. I mean, humans are all emotional creatures. People make decisions as a group, as a society, that a lot of time you can't predict in advance what's the rational decision that the whole society as a whole will decide to take.
Okay. And that's very exciting, right? I mean, I think the roadmap is pretty exciting, and I hope more people, join in and contribute to the community. So, if for people listening in, how can they get started with TagUI? Start contributing to the TagUI community. Where do you suggest they start?
Sure. The easiest way is to Google TagUI, TAGUI, and you'll hit upon maybe the GitHub page. So from there are various resources, like there's a how to get started link. There's a video of some of the webinars that was done earlier this year. And the webinar includes introductory webinar, where you can be from a business background. You are not a technical user. After watching that 1 hour YouTube video, you get a good grasp about the tool and whether it's suitable for your RPA vision in mind for your organization. And there's a more advanced webinar video. There's also materials like, let's say, a Telegram group chat where users can find support, and there's a GitHub support as well. There's also a recently launched AI Singapore community website where, there's a TagUI forum there, various threads, and you can subscribe to each thread as you wish. Find ring control about that. Like, for example, you want to know about what's the latest features, you can just subscribe to that thread. You want to know about what are the user workflows that recently the community shared, you can subscribe to just that thread. So when something new is posted there, you get an email notification. So it's very straightforward. And all these resources are there on the TagUI GitHub homepage. Yeah. And now, on top of all this, in a few weeks' time, my colleague Ruth, she'll be releasing a video courses for TagUI. There'll be an introductory course. There'll be an advanced course for those who have completed the introductory course. And there'll be some certification element as well. It's a free certification. So once you take it, you'll take a self-certification test. And then when you pass it, you get a certified TagUI developer, something along that line. Yeah. So that will be something users can expect that in a few weeks' time.
Excellent. So a lot of new things to look forward to, apart from your roadmap, new courses and new forums. So thank you, Ken, for taking time today to be part of this podcast. It's been an inspiring journey for you, for AI Singapore, and for all the community members, I think, for TagUI. And I hope more people participate with TagUI. And as you say, TagUI becomes a viable alternative to the commercial RPA options out there. So thanks so much again, Ken. Glad to have you on.
Thank you so much, Nada, for inviting me.
Thank you for joining the Bot Nirvana podcast. Appreciate if you can leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Catch the show notes on botnirvana.org. While you're there, feel free to explore more automation ideas, tutorials, tools, and more. See you next time.